Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Hazur is saying that today, because of the snow and the cold, perhaps there has been a delay. I don't understand. Usually, this the weather doesn't have anything to do with the satellite, but today the contact has been established after a long delay.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإن خفتم ألا تقسطوا في اليتامى فانكحوا ما طاب لكم من النساء مثنى وثلاث ورباع فإن خفتم ألا تعدلوا فواحدة أو ما ملكت أيمانكم ذلك أدنى ألا تعولوا. Surah An-Nisaa ayat 4.
This is chapter An-Nisaa, Surah An-Nisaa, verse 4. Huzur is saying that the translation of this verse has been done and some of the commentary as well. And today we should move ahead of in terms of the commentary. Huzur is saying that Huzur has been presenting the Orientalist point of views, and of these one is Rodwell, and it's a book. Huzur mentioned the name, which has been published by Everyman. He is Huzur is saying that he's comparatively fair-minded in his ideas. We shall see what we have. He said Muhammad assumed himself privileged. He had greater number of wives, but in doing so he was probably actuated by a desire for male offspring. That the Holy Prophet ﷺ regarded himself as being above the restriction of 4, but his probably the reason for this was that he wanted to have male offspring. Saying he has made his own conjecture. Huzur is saying, then he says that Khadija was his only wife until quite late period in his career, but he has also given another reference which is interesting, which is in the favor of the Muslims, and that reference is very good to shut the mouths of the people of the book. He's saying that according to in the Bible there's teaching that a man may marry many wives. Rabba said it is lawful to do so if he can provide for them. Nevertheless, the wise man had given good advice that a man should not marry more than 4 wives. Huzur is saying that the idea of 4 wives is found in the Bible as well, and Orientalists who attack Islam, it will be strange for us to believe that they have not known of this. They are well known, and they read these books very carefully, so doesn't seem to be any excuse of lack of knowledge. They intentionally put their hands on those things so that they can attack Islam. See also sorry, you said something which I didn't understand. Huzur is saying that because these are Hebrew words which have been written in Roman, so it can't be read properly, but the reference is given, Rodwell is given, is 14:3. Richard Bell says that marriage would appear to be intended as a means of seeing the justice is done to orphans, the danger of their property being neglected or abused may be obviated by the marriage either of the widowed mother
of orphan children
of orphan
or of the
children
orphan
or
girl
of the
herself,
orphan girl
for the
herself,
possibility that
where the
child
possibility
marriage
of
may
the
be
child marriage
compensated,
may be
it would
compensated,
then
it would
become
then
the
become
husband's
the
personal
husband's
interest to see
personal
that the
interest
property was
that the
looked
property
after.
was looked after. To
To
facilitate
marriage of
this
several
marriage of
wives up
several
to
wives
four
up to four,
and perhaps
and
अब ये लफ्ज़
perhaps
छुटा हुआ है या इसी पर उसने बात छोड़
Zul
दी
is
है
saying that we're not sure if
and
he
perhaps
stopped
it's
this.
omitted.
If something is omitted here, or is it he what he means here?
इसका मफ़हूम मुख्तसरन यही है
The meaning of this
कि
briefly
मैरिज
is that
के पीछे
behind marriage
रसामात का
is the
बड़ी तादाद में मौजूद होना
fact
जो
that
हिकमत थी
the presence
जो
of
इसकी आयत
a lot of
यहाँ
orphans
एक से ज़्यादा
necessitated this
शादियों की
teaching.
इजाज़त का जिक्र करती है लेकिन जो इसने समझा
But
है मजमून
what he
वो
has
काफ़ी
thought of this is
उलझाव रखता है
quite complicated,
मैंने इस गरज से इसको
and
पेश नहीं किया
saying that
कि
this is
ये
not why I
क्या
presented
नतीजा
it,
निकाल रहा है
as to why
यहाँ
what
आगे चलकर
as
एक एतराज़
he
करता है
derives from it. He
ये इसको पेश
makes
करने के लिए
an
ये मैंने एक हिस्सा इसलिए पढ़
he
दिया
makes an allegation, which is saying
facilitate this
for
marriage
the
of
sake of which
several
I'm
wives
presenting
up
this.
to
So
four
he's saying that facilitate this
and
to
perhaps
marriage
more मुराद होगी लिखा होगा is
up
permitted.
to marriage up to four, perhaps more
इस मकसद को
is permitted basically, and this
रसूखानी से
aim
हासिल करने के लिए
to in order to
कि
achieve it more
यतामा
easily,
की
that is
यतामा और
to
खुसूसन यतीम बच्चियों की जायदादों का कोई
to
देखभाल करने वाला हो
take care of so
जायज या उनके
there's
साथ
someone
इंसाफ
to
का
take
मामला किया
care
जाए
of
इससे ज़्यादा शादियों की इजाज़त दी जाए
orphans
सार्थक या
money, so
शायद उससे भी ज़्यादा
they're permitted, someone is permitted to marry them
फिर आगे वो
up to
लिखते हैं
four or
बेल इन
perhaps
हिज
more. And then
इंट्रोडक्शन टू
so the
सूरा
Bell in his
an-निसा
introduction to Surah An-Nisaa
summarizes this verse
summarizes this verse
as a
as the
recommendation of
recommendation
polygamy
of
as a
polygamy
means of
as a
providing for
means of
female
providing
orphans.
for female orphans,
Subtitled Late
subtitled
Insertion in
late
Verse.
insertion in
ये
verse.
इसकी आदत है रिचर्ड
They
बेल
say
की
this is Richard Bell's habit,
आयतों को भी अपनी मर्जी
that
से इधर उधर
he
फेंकता
changes
फिरता है
the
वहाँ
verses
से
here
उठाई
and
वहाँ रख
there,
दी
and he
गोया
takes
कि
it from here and
इसको
puts
खुदा
it
ताला
there,
ने
as if
मुकर्रर किया हुआ है
Allah has appointed
कुरान
him
रीऑर्गेनाइज करने के
to
लिए और
reorganize the Holy
बेतुका
Quran,
बेदलील
and without any
मुख्तलिफ आयतों के
proof
नंबर अलग लगाए
he
फिरता है
gives different
और
verses
यहाँ
at different
महज
numbers,
तुकबाजी से
and
बात
here
कहता है
he's just making mere
marry
conjecture.
such a women
So
as
marry such
seem
women
good to
as
you double or
seem good to
several
you,
of it
double or
or
several
fourfold
of them
but if you
fourfold. But
fear
if you
that
fear
he may not
that
be
he may
fair
not
then one
be
or what your right hand
then
possess
one or what
that
your
is
right hand
only
possess,
that is more
that is
likely
more
to
likely
secure
to
that
secure
ye not be partial.
that you may not be
आगे जाकर ये
partial.
कहता है
And then
इसी
in
ज़मीन पर
after this he says,
as the passage is
as
really
the passage
addressed to the
is
Muslim
really addressed to the
community as a
Muslim
whole,
community as a whole,
it does not necessarily mean that the guardian
should
should be those for
should
the management of of whose
marry
property
for
is
the sake.
responsible. The general
Sorry,
practice
the general
of
practice
polygamy
of
would
polygamy
ease
would
the situation,
ease the situation,
but the widows
but
or
the
orphans
widows and
thus
or
married are
orphans
not
thus
to be
married are
denied
not to be
their bride
denied
price,
their
though they
bride
may
price,
not
which
be in
they may
position
not
to
be in a
demand it.
position to demand it.
The clause in
The
the middle of
clause
the
in the
verse,
middle of the verse,
in khiftum
in khiftum
Allah
Allah
ta'alu
ta'alu, that
is
clause
interested
is
rather
interested
in marriage than
in
in orphan
marriage
property
than often in
and
property,
restricts the
and
freedom
restricts the
given in the
freedom
first part
given
of
in
the
the
verse
first part of the verse
is probably a later
is
addition.
probably a later addition.
ये है जो
This is
असल हिस्सा है उसका जिसकी तरफ मैं मुतवज्जे करना चाहता था
Huzur Sayyid, which I want
इंसाफ
to bring
करते
to your
करते
attention, that
फिर
while
अचानक
being patient,
ये डंडे मारने पर आमादा हो जाता
while being fair-minded, suddenly
कहता
he
है
does
ये सब
something
कुछ ठीक है समझ आ
weird.
जाती है बात
He says that we understand
लेकिन
all
ये
of
जो
this, but
आखिरी हिस्सा है आयत का
the final section of the
जिसमें
verse,
ये बयान
in
किया
which
गया
it
है
is
कि अगर
written
तुम
that
इंसाफ
if
फैसला
you
हो कि इंसाफ
are
नहीं करो
afraid that you may not
तो
be
फिर 4
just,
शादियां
then
नहीं
you
करनी
should not
या
marry
एक से
4
ज्यादा नहीं
wives. You
करनी
should
बल्कि एक ही पर इक्तफा
not
करना होगा
marry more
या
than
तो ये
one.
गालबन बाद में
You have to
शायद
be
कर दिया जाए
satisfied with just one. So he's
कोई
saying
तुक
that
नहीं
there
कोई
should be
कोई उसूल
this
नहीं है
should be
पूरा ये
later.
खुद
So he's saying
मुख्तार
there is no
एक
proof.
खुदा ताला के
This is of his idea. He tries to take on Allah's job, that because I think it's this way, so it should be this way. They were saying that I've seen several examples of them in the past as well. This is a special habit of Richard Bell. Now let us turn to Montgomery Watt. Will not act justly towards the orphans. Verses 4, An-Nisaa. He writes on Arbery's translation. There were still many case of polyandry and similar practice in Medina. He's saying that he used this word polyandry repeatedly. As far as I remember, polyandry was used for more than one wife, husband. So more than one wife is called polygamy. And yesterday I was saying that I checked it in the dictionary, and everywhere that's the translation that I found, that polyandry is to have more than one husband, and polygamy is used for more than one wife. And so, is the Scottish English different, or he's just doing something because he is just trying to be prejudiced? So we're saying he has purposely used the word polyandry, and he's changed he has changed the discussion. He has taken this issue and pretended that this is an issue about having more than one husband, and he's saying that as if the custom of more than one wife, more than one husband was in the society. But he then says in contradiction, which goes against his own point of view. So saying, let me read the whole thing first. There were still many cases of polyandry and civil practice in Medina. And unjust treatment of girl orphans is humanly consistent with keeping them polyandrous. He's saying that the unjust practice which is mentioned, this is what it means. It's not about money. What it means is that they don't make them have more than one husband. You should marry more than one wife. So saying, what a pointless thing this is, what an illogical thing this is. The Holy Quran is saying that he's saying that don't let the orphan girls have more than one husband. So the Quran is saying that have more than one wife. So it's saying that there is absolutely no logic in this, and he is completely blinded by his prejudice. Then he says that to any husband but to the guardian, who doubtless would make some profit on the... Sorry, I didn't catch the rest of the reference. They're saying that I don't understand this English. In keeping them polyandrous and so subject not to any husband but to the guardian, that he leave her as a guardian. This is probably what it means here, who doubtless could make some profit from this arrangement. So then he would then take benefit. That means that he will ask them to do other evil deeds, and that's probably what is pointed towards. The passage is said to have been believed after the death of many male Muslims after the battles. So when a lot of male Muslims passed away, then what was the point of speaking about polyandry? He is accepting himself that the situation was such that there were a lot of women were in excess, not men. So it's a strange writing which could not be understood by anyone who's got any semblance of knowledge. But there is no lack of any stupid people in the world. So then Montgomery Ward says that some modern Muslims argue that since no man can be impartial between several women, this virtually describes monogamy. This is also clear lies. this such a great scholar
तो इल्म ना हो कि
who
पुराने
doesn't
क्लासिकल
understand
स्कॉलर्स
that
ने बैनी
what the
ये
old
नतीजा
classical
निकाला था,
scholars have said, and that they have
जो
got
ये ज़ाहिर
exactly the
करना
same
चाहता है कि पिछले तमाम
idea, which means
जो
that he's trying to express
मुफस्सिरीन
that
थे,
all
उनमें से किसी एक
the
ने भी ये नतीजा नहीं निकाला
um,
कि अगर तुम इंसाफ नहीं कर सकते एक
none
करो,
of those ever
हालांकि
derived
सब
this
लिख रहे हैं।
conclusion that if you can't
इसलिए
do
सारी पिछली
justice,
सदियां
then you shouldn't
छोड़कर
marry. So Huzur is saying
जदीद
that
ज़माने में आकर
he forgets
अपोलोजेटिक
about
करार दे रहा है मुकम्मलन।
all
कहता
the
हाँ इस जदीद
other
ज़माने में
others.
कुछ मुसलमान ऐसे पैदा हो गए हैं जो
Sorry,
ये नतीजा भी इस आयत से निकालते हैं
say it again. He's
कि
saying that
चूँकि
because
इंसाफ करना
Muslims
अक्सर लोगों के बस की बात नहीं,
are not able
इसलिए
to
अमलन
do
यही कहा
justice.
जा रहा है
So
कि तुम
practically it's
चूँकि
been
अक्सर
said that
इंसाफ नहीं कर
because
सकोगे,
most
इसलिए
of you cannot do
ये जो
justice, so therefore
तर्ज
don't
सलाम
do
है
it.
इनकी
Huzur is
मौजूदगी
saying
और
that
शायद की,
don't marry
इसके
more than
नतीजे
one.
में
Huzur is saying the style of
फितरत
his
से अरब
worship.
शहजादे इनके
And there's
शागिर्द बना के
quite a
भेजे
few
जाते हैं
Arab
ताकि इनसे आके इस्लाम
students who used to come to them to study from them. They've been
कसरत
sent
से नहीं
these
तो
people.
रवायतन बारहा भेजे
Huzur is
गए हैं।
saying that often they have been sent for many years.
अब
They
वैली
have been
शुरू हो जाए
sent. Now Huzur is saying that's turn to
तो दिल
bury.
थामना पड़ेगा, अल्लाह रहम
Huzur
करे।
is saying you have to hold on to your
क्योंकि
hearts. May Allah have mercy,
इस मौके पर
because
अपने जज्बात को
at
काबू
this
रखना बड़ा
occasion
मुश्किल काम
to
है।
keep your emotions in check is
सूरह
very
निसा
difficult.
वर्स 4,
Surah An-Nisaa verse
and
4,
if
he
you
says,
fear
and if you
that
fear
you shall
that
not
you shall
act with
not act
equity
with
towards
equity
orphans
towards the
of the
orphans
female
of
sex,
the female sex,
take in marriage of
take
such
in
other
marriage
women
of
as
such other
please you,
women as please
2 or
you,
3 or
2 or
4,
3 or
no
4
more.
and no more.
But if you fear
But if you fear
that he cannot
that he
act equitably
cannot
towards so
act
many,
equitably towards
marry
so
one
many,
only,
marry one only
on the or the
on the
slaves which
or
you
the
shall have
slaves.
acquired. This will be
This will be
easier that you
easier
swerve
that you
not
swerve
from
not
righteousness.
from
तर्जुमा
righteousness.
ठीक है,
The
तर्जुमे
translation
पे
is
कोई
correct.
एतराज
Huzur is saying that I have no objection on the translation.
नहीं। Note, it is the Muslim
The note
fairy
is, it is the
that
Muslim
women can
fairy
never,
that
at
women
any
can never,
time,
at any time,
or circumstances,
place, or
be
circumstances
trusted.
be trusted.
अब ये fairy यहाँ से कहा,
Huzur is saying that how could he derive this?
वहाँ ये है रहा है कि women
It is
बेचारियाँ
said that women
जिनका
who
अम्बाल जिनके बेहिफाजत हैं,
whose wealth
सोसाइटी
is
के वर्ग
unprotected,
ट्रस्टवर्दी नहीं।
the men of the society are not trustworthy.
ऐने ही यही नतीजा
This
निकलता है इस बात का।
exactly this is the
औरतों
conclusion
से
that
क्या है
should
कि
be
ट्रस्ट की
withdrawn from
बात ही
this.
कोई नहीं।
There is nothing
ये
in it
फरमाया जा रहा
whatsoever
है
of
कि तुम
trust,
मर्दों
the
की
women's
सोसाइटी में
trust. It means that in the
रुझान है
men's
कि औरतों
society
को
there
जरूर
is
करोगे जब उनको
a
बेहिफाजत देखोगे।
inclination that if they see a woman
इसलिए
unprotected, they may
तुम्हारी
transgress against
बदकिस्मती
her.
के
So,
खौफ से
because of the
ये
fear
हुक्म
of
दिया जा
your
रहा है
dishonesty, this
कि
command
इनकी
has been
हिफाजत का
given
इंतजाम करो और
that you
इनके
should take
अम्बाल की
care
कोई
of
नजर न रखना, और इनकी
their wealth
निगरानी
and don't
खिदमत,
look at their
इनके
wealth
मफादात की निगरानी।
with a wrong
और जहाँ
view,
उसने
and
अच्छा ट्रस्ट दिया है
the
कि
protection
निगरानी
is
के
of
तरीके से हमारे बना दिए।
their
It is the Muslim
of their
fairy.
benefits.
अपनी fairy मुसलमानों
And
का
then
नाम
Huzur
बताई
is saying that he's alleged his
that
theory to the
women can
Muslims.
never in any
In
time, place or
the women
circumstances be
never
trusted.
at any time,
They must be
place,
what?
or time be
Veiled,
circumstances, they
suspected.
must be watched, veiled, suspected.
और जहालत की भी हद
Huzur is saying this is the limit
कुरान
of
करीम फरमाता है
ignorance.
कि
The Holy
जो
Quran is
मुहसनात
saying
पर तोहमत
that
लगाते हैं
those who allege
उनके लिए शदीद
anything
अज़ाब,
against the
अल्लाह ताला की
believing
नाराज़गी
women,
का
for
है,
them there is a huge
और
punishment,
जो
and
4
Allah
गवाह
will
नहीं
be
ला
upset with
सकते जो
them. And
बहुत
those
ही
who
एक
cannot
मुश्किल
bring
काम,
4
उनको तो
witnesses, which is
किस तरह
extremely
लगाएं।
difficult, then they should
इस
be
तरह अल्लाह ताला
lashed
औरतों की
80
इफ़्फ़त की
times. And this
हिफाजत
is how
करता है,
Allah
किसी
protects
बदकार झूठे
the
इंसान को
the
ज़रूरत ही ना हो कभी उन पर इल्ज़ाम लगाने की। और
or
ये
the
इसने
honor
नतीजा
of
निकाल
women,
कहाँ से
so that
निकाला?
no
इस
evil
आयत
man
से
can ever dare
कि
to
बाप यतीम
put
बच्चों
any
के मालिक नहीं
allege
होते,
anything against believing women.
नतीजे
And
निकाले
how
हैं।
has he managed to withdraw this? The conclusion is one fails to
In
understand.
any time, हाँ, women
Women
in
can
any
never
time,
at any
place
time,
or
place,
circumstances
or
be
circumstances
trusted.
be trusted,
They
he
must
says.
be watched. हर
They
वक्त
must be
इनका ख्याल
watched.
रखना। कुरान करीम कहता है वला
The Quran is saying
सोसाइटी में
that
किसी को भी
in the society,
जासूसी की नजर से न
no
देखो,
one
किसी
in
की
Wala Tajassusu, that
कमजोरियां तलाश
don't
न करो।
be
कहता है veiled, पर्दा ठीक
don't
है, सब
be
suspected,
curious about
हर
anyone,
वक्त
but
शक
he's
करो।
saying that they should be. He's saying that they
झूठ
should be
बात में
veiled, and
पत्ता
you should
लगा दो।
always be suspected that there must be something wrong,
secluded,
and they should be kept secluded from the rest of the society. In these days when so much has been written about the high
we shall speak
ethical
plainly
tone of
on this
Islam, we should
subject.
speak plainly on this subject.
Unpleasant though it is,
Unpleasant though it is, we would
already
reiterate the position already taken that polygamy has not diminished the sensuousness among the Muhammadans.
वो कहता है हम पहले भी इस मौजू
We're saying that we have spoken about this previously as well.
अखलाकी कदरों
The problem is that Pakistan
ये अखलाकी कदरें पेश करने वाले कस्टोडियन के तौर पर पेश
Islam is being presented as a custodian of moral values, and is completely wrong as far as polygamy is concerned.
ज़्यादा शादियां करना
To marry more than one wife,
जो दूसरे बेहयाई के तकाबात हैं
the other
उनको रोकने में कामयाब नहीं हो सकते
the polygamy could not stop the other evils in the society of Muslims, and nor have we any hesitation in saying that the law here recorded permitting as many as 4 lawful wives and any number of slave women besides, with whom even the form of marriage is in no way necessary, legalized prohibition, is responsible in large measure for this state of things. It is one of the darkest of the many spots which mar the passage of the Quran. He's saying that I think it's necessary to say that we don't feel any hesitation in saying that the marriage of up to 4 women, 4 wives, and the matrimonial relationship with slave girls, with whom there is no need to search for any lawful custom, and as a result of this teaching, the result of this, the horrors, the worst things, the evil that is spread into society, this is the worst things, worst of the darkest things in the Holy Quran. And then he says it, and it's not even necessary that a Muslim have even 1 lawful wife. The matter of the 1 wife is just a matter of discussion, because he's saying that he may take his slave girls whom he may treat as he pleases, and so avoid the responsibility of providing the dowry for even 1 wife. So he's saying that this is the manner by which he doesn't have to pay any dowry, and the slave girl, if he takes her, and he doesn't need to marry at all. This is the cheapest way out. This idiot doesn't know that the dowry about which he's saying this is a big tax on the Muslim, this is still regarded as 32 rupees, and in the olden days, and people used to even be able to marry with a dowry of 1 date. So to regard that as being being responsible for this is completely wrong. It is the dowry is kept so that a man takes on responsibility and tries to give a woman something. Hazur is saying that this Ahmadiyya Jamaat's point of view with regards to this Huzur is saying that I wish to make the distinction, and then I will talk about this. Montgomery Watts does not know that according to Jamaat Ahmadiyya, the reason for this is that a woman, when she gets married to someone, then if she has to separate, then she should have some financial security. And because this is natural that a woman, if she is not married, then she's more in popular. And if once she's divorced, then she would be less so. And because the society puts the burden of ownership on men, and it's less chance of women to earn money, so she should have her own money, personal money. And this is why the Muslim Zanho has also derived that if a husband, if he can write a year's salary for in dowry, then that's good. Otherwise, it should be at least of 6 months. And he said, the year, he said, because in the Holy Quran it says that a widow is must not be told to leave her husband's house for a year. So from this, the Muslims derived that with the haq meher, to make a joke of it and to have a small haq meher is wrong, or dowry is wrong. In our Jamaat, the best thing is that a person must give dowry which is equal to 1 year's or 6 months 6 months dowry of of the what the man is earning his salary. So he's saying that what a man earns has to be for 2 people, and if he gives a woman 6 months money, 6 months salary, then it should last her for a year. So this is like optimum is 1 year, and minimum is 6 months salary to be given in dowry. And this is what the Khalifa An-Nisaa, the second Khalifa, understood from verses of the Holy Quran and from the traditions, in order to give Muslim women, Ahmadi women, protection. And Montgomery Ward does not know this. He only knows of the customary Islam which is found in the Middle Ages, which has the custodians of which are usually who call themselves the representatives of Sawad Azam, etc. He knows their teachings well. And he knows very well that most ulama say that whatever you set for the dowry, even if it's something which today should be worth 32 rupees, which would be 30p, Huzur is saying, or perhaps a bit more, or perhaps about 75 pence. So it is said that if it's 75 pence today, then it will be sufficient. And the same is this standard manner these days. So they say that in order to save that, it's very easy to have a slave girl, and he doesn't know that slave girls are not found in like a wild fruit that is in the desert, in the jungle or something. You just pick it up. Slave girls used to be very expensive, and as far as Islam is concerned, it is difficult for there to be a slave girl at all, because the Holy Quran says to the Holy Prophet ﷺ that unless there is a war in which there's a lot of bloodshed, and until that time no one is permitted to make a free person a slave. And the Holy Prophet ﷺ had
आजाद इंसान
said
को गुलाम बनाने के खिलाफ बड़ी सख्ती से तंबीह फरमाई
he warned
और
against making a free
अजाब की
man
खबर
into a
दी। अगर
slave,
कोई
and he
शख्स
said that such a
किसी
person
आजाद को कैद कर
would
लेता है, गुलाम बनाता है, तो खुदा की
uh,
नज़र
would
में वो मुजरिम हो जाता
be would be a
है। इस
criminal. Such a
तालीम को
person would be a
होते
criminal
हुए
in the eyes of Allah and would
लौंडियाँ
be
आएंगी
punished.
कहाँ से?
So where will
और
the slave girls come
अगर
from
बाहर
then?
की बनी हुई
And
लौंडियाँ खरीदी जा रही हैं, जैसे कि उस
if people
ज़माने
are
में
buying
रिवाज थे, पैसे देने
slaves
पड़ते हैं
from
और
outside, then
वो
they'll have to
पैसे
give
इस
money,
दौरी से कहीं ज़्यादा बढ़ते
and
हैं।
that money is far more than this
इसलिए
dowry.
इसका सारा इस्तेमाल ही
So
अहमकाना
his
है।
whole
जब ये
uh,
तवज्जो में आके बात करता है तो
idea is
भूल जाता
wrong.
है कि इस्लामी
When
फिक़ह
he
क्या
says
कहती है,
this,
इस्लामी रिवाज क्या कहता है, इस ज़माने की
um,
तारीख
he
क्या
ignores
मंजर हमारे सामने पेश करती
what
है।
the history of the time,
लौंडियाँ
what scenario the history
तो
of the time
अमीरों
paints
के
before us.
नखरे थे
Slave
जो
girls were some
साख के तौर
luxuries
पर
of rich people,
सोसाइटी में मिलते हैं
were found very
और
rarely
अक्सर
among
सोसाइटी
in the
गुरबा पर
society,
मुश्तमिल है।
and most of society was made
इसलिए
of
ये
poor
कहना कि
people.
गरीब आदमी को तो फिर
So then to say
शादी की
that
ज़रूरत ही कोई नहीं, वो उसी
a
तरह
rich man
गुजारा करेगा
therefore
मीलों पर
does not
जैसे
need
फिरौनियों
to
के
get
बाजार
married, and
गुजरते
he
थे,
needs to
तो
he
वहाँ
can just
मुफ्त में
live,
घूमेंगे।
he can just
बिल्कुल जहलाना
have
तस्वुर है,
a
इसमें कोई
slave
भी
girls is
हकीकत नहीं है।
completely wrong. There's absolutely
अमरे
no
वाक़या ये है कि
reality in it.
मुसलमानों
The
ने
fact of the
जो
matter is
जंगे
that
हैं हज़रत
Muslims,
सल्लल्लाहु
the
अलैहि वसल्लम
battles
के
that were
ज़माने में
fought at the time of the Holy Prophet
उसमें
Sallallahu
बहुत
Alaihi Wasallam,
बड़ी तादाद
of
में
the Muslims,
औरतें
there
कैद
were
की
very,
गई
very few prisoners of war,
और मुसलमान
women,
सोसाइटी उसके मुकाबले पर
and
बहुत
the
ज़्यादा बदसूरती तादाद में थी।
the Muslim
इसलिए ये
society
जो
was far more
सवाल उठाया
than
जा रहा
them
है, इसको
in
तारीखी
number.
हक़ाइक़ से
So
अलग
Huzur is saying
करके
that this question has been
अदालत-ए-बात और
raised.
गौर किए बगैर पेश
Um,
किया जा रहा है।
this has been presented
ये
without looking
सूरह
at the
निसा
number of people.
मुसल्लमा है कि
Surah
जो
Nisa is doing that.
3 से लेकर 5 तक
The
छुपी
Surah Nisa is saying that from
और
2
सन
to
5 तक अभी
until
जंग अहज़ाब भी नहीं
uh,
हुई थी।
2. This was revealed
ओहद
in
थी और
the
बदर
5th
थी।
year of Hijrah, when it was
अब
only
आप
Uhud
बताइए
and Badr.
ओहद
So
और
Huzur
बदर
is
में
saying that in Uhud and
कितनी
Badr,
लौंडियाँ मुसलमानों के
how
हाथ
many
आई?
slave girls came to the
बदर
into
में
the care of the
जो
Muslims?
हमला आवर थे
In
वो
Badr, the
बाहर
people
से
who
आए हैं
came
और चंद
came from
औरतें जो गाना
outside,
बजाने
and a
वाली हैं,
few
साथ सिंगर
women who were with
वो
them who used to sing
गाने वाली
etc. for them,
जंगी नगमे
or
पढ़ने वाली वो
who
भाग
used
गई
to
थी
spur
इस
them
तरह।
on. They ran,
और जो
and
ओहद का हाल है वो आप
the,
लोगों को रोशन है।
and you know what happened at
एक भी
Uhud? There was not
औरत
a
कुफार
single
मक्का के
woman
मुसलमानों के हाथ में आई।
of the
तो ये
in
सूरत जो
adulterers
नाज़िल इस दौर में हुई
was
है,
captured by the
उस
Muslims.
पर
So
तबसरा करते
the
हुए
time
ये
at which
मंजर
this
पेश
was
करता है कि
revealed,
कसरत से लौंडियाँ वहाँ थीं।
to say that
अमर
this
वाक़या ये है कि गुर्बत
present the
का
scenario of there
मुसलमानों
being
का ये
plenty
हाल
of
था
slave girls, this is completely wrong.
और औरतों
The
की कमी का ये
poverty
आलम था
of the Muslims
कि
was such, and
मदीने
the lack
में
of ladies
बाज़
was such that
अहले
some
मदीना ने
people of Medina,
वफ़ात
some
के वक़्त
Medinites, when they passed away,
आज खुद ये
they by
खिदमत ये
themselves
ख्वाहिश की
desired
कि चूँकि हमारे
that because
मुहाजिर
our
अपनी
muhajir,
बीवियाँ
our
अपनी औरतें बहुत सी सूरतों में छोड़कर आ गए हैं
migrated people who have
और
migrated from
इनके लिए
Mecca, they
शादी
have
के इम्कानात
had to
कोई नहीं
abandon their
तो हम
wives, and there
अपनी
is no
बाज़ बीवियों
chances
को
of
तलाक
them
दे देते हैं ताकि
to
उनसे
get
शादी
married
करें।
here. So we should
ये है मदीने की
divorce some of
सोसाइटी
our wives so that they
और
can marry
गुर्बत का
them.
ये आलम के
And the poverty
कई
was
सौ
such
आदमी थे
that
जो
there were hundreds of women
मस्जिद नबी में
who
रहते थे सड़कों के
used to
ऊपर
live in
उनकी खुराक
the
का कोई
Prophet's
इंतजाम नहीं
mosque
था
in
रसूल सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम के घर
in
आग नहीं जलती थी कई दिन मुसलसल
in the
और
mosque
इंतजार
without
था कि
any
खुदा
food,
कहीं
and
से कोई
they
तोहफा भेज दे तो
the Holy Prophet
सबको
ﷺ's
जरूर
home, they
पेश करने की
hardly
तैयार हैं
from days on
ये
end,
मंजर है
no
जंग
fire would
अहज़ाब
be
तक
kindled
गुर्बत
there
का ये
to
आलम
cook
था
food.
इस
So
वाक़े से
this was until the
सहाबा
Battle of
में ऐसे
Ahzab,
लोग पेट पे पत्थर बांधे हुए थे
that
और ये
the Holy Prophet
बदबख्त लोग
ﷺ and his companions
इस
had
तरह जुबान
tied
दराज करते हैं
rocks to their
और
stomachs
इनके लिए कोई
um,
उज़र नहीं है कि
to
लाइल्मी में कहा जा रहा है
to help their
मुसलमानों
hunger.
इस तारीख के
And these
सारे
people,
बाब एक एक वर्क रोशन
they know
जानते
everything
हैं
about all of
कि
these
मुसलमान किस
issues,
हाल
and
में
they know
ज़िंदगी
what
बसर कर
the
रहे थे
situation of Muslims was at the
उस वक्त
time.
कानामर्जी करता है और जानकर वहाँ से उछल कर
And
इस
he's being
दौर में पहुँच
sarcastic,
जाते
and
हैं
he's trying
जो
to
आयात के
jump from
35
that
साल बाद
era
का दौर है
into an era which was hundreds
जब
of years after these
लौंडियाँ और
verses,
गुलाम आने शुरू हुए हैं
when
तो ये
slave
बात नहीं जब
girls
ये
and slaves were
ईरान से
came,
जंगी हुई हैं
and when there was
या और बहुत सी
battles with
मुल्कों से
Iran,
जब बाद में लड़ाइयाँ हुई हैं
At that time, this then began to happen. And when this verse was revealed, he says that the words of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, not Allah's. So if it was the Holy Prophet ﷺ's words, then how would he know that afterwards there would be so many slave girls? So it's complete lies and prejudice, and he has absolutely no substance to what he's saying. He's saying that no dowry would there be no need for dowry for even a single woman. Then he says Muhammad did not bind himself by the law. See chapter 32. Even the heaven of Islam is witness, the perpetuation of almost unlimited polygamy. See chapter 4 and 6. 1:6 perhaps it says. He's saying that he's not even leaving the heaven alone. He's saying that look, these people they want to marry more than one wife so much that even in the heaven they are practicing polygamy, and no country is under heaven presents such a cesspool of seething corruption and sensuality as those ruled over by the Muslims. He says that under the firmament of the heavens, there is no country which gives a scenario of the debauchery, etc., such as those countries show, which are under the Muslim government. The slaves, this is sale. You're saying the sale agrees with him. Because the slaves do not require such a large dower, a man might keep several of the former as easily as one of the free. He's saying this is complete denial of historical facts and complete lack of knowledge of this economic situation of the Arabs at the time. Because Huzur is saying that as far as the books are concerned, and as far as the old literature is concerned, they have worked harder than a lot of Muslim ulama, and they have studied very deeply, and they have read through many different people in order to find allegations. So they cannot, you cannot think that they did not know. You cannot imagine that they had a lack of knowledge. Margoliyat, which is usually saying that in the Muslims or who searches for defects in Islam, he is not someone that he's our friend. He has a negative point of view. At this occasion, he's forced to admit that Muhammad's marriages, which was after Khadija, a lot of Orientalists say that they were due to some sensual reasons, but they were not for this reason. They were for national interest. But Muhammad ﷺ desired that some companions should be attached to him with more love, and this is the reason why he married Abu Bakr Umar Zanhu's daughters, and also other people were also, their marriages to their daughters were also due to political reasons, and the other weddings were so that he could have male offspring, which he desired greatly. As far as the marriages with the Holy Prophet ﷺ is concerned, they are saying that I wish to present some points in front of you from which you will realize that these Orientalists make such horrific attacks, and they cover the important parts of life. One man who is a slave to his sensual desires, and he goes against the Holy Quran, and he wants more for himself and less for others. Such a person, which era can he be more overwhelmed by such desires until the age of 40? Once after the age of 40, one's strengths start to wane. The Holy Prophet ﷺ, until the age of 40, he lived he lived with one wife who was 15 years older than him. He was 25 and she was 40 when he married her, and this happened until the age of 50. Until the age of 50, Nauzubillah. And after that, the sensual emotions that they see afterwards, they were not there before that. Until the age of 50, he lived with a lady who was an older lady, and Hazrat Khadija Zanha was 65 years old. So this is the idea. This is a good answer to them. But they're so ignorant. There seems to be no limit to their ignorance. And then the wives that were afterwards, at that age, at what age? You're saying, I'm going to tell you now. At the age of 50, Khadija Zanha passed away. Hazrat Sauda was the first lady he got married to. And at that time, the Holy Prophet ﷺ was 50. And the second marriage, which was in Medina, was with Aisha Siddiqa Zanha. She, at the time, was from 12 to 16 years at the time. And the Holy Prophet ﷺ was 55 years old. Then she married Hazrat Hafsa, and the other marriages that took place, they took place when he was between 55 and 60 years of age. And in this age, suddenly, how could someone have this sudden surge of youth? So their allegation is false, that a person who is slave to his desires, he should be consoled with one woman until the age of 50, and then suddenly his patients should abandon him after that, when the youth had left him. And then the Holy Prophet ﷺ, not for a single moment, no one would have felt hesitant. And the Holy Prophet ﷺ, about him, it is very clear that he married widowed women more, and very few of them were not widowed. So this means that there are some other reasons for this. To marry a widowed woman, it doesn't mean that she should get married only. As a result of jihad, those that became widowed, it's mostly those women who the Holy Prophet ﷺ married. The ones who had not previously been married, who had never had any nikah with anyone, that such a lady was only Hazrat Aisha Zanha. We were saying, imagine that the one who Nauzubillah, who shows the Holy Prophet ﷺ being slave to his desires. This proves I'm completely wrong. Hazrat Sauda was a widow, Hazrat Hafsa was a widow, Hazrat Zainab was also, there's another Zainab who was also a widow. There was another who was Zainab bin Jahash, who was the divorcee of Zaid. There was another Zainab who was Hosanna
बिन खुज़ैमा
bin,
हैं,
sorry,
ये
Hosanna
भी
bint
बेवा थी।
Huzaima, she was also a
हज़रत
widow.
सलमा भी बेवा
Hazrat
थी।
Salma was also
हज़रत
a
ज़ैनब
widow.
बिन
Hazrat
जहश
Zainab
मुतलका
bin
थी।
Jahash was divorced,
और
and
हज़रत हबीबा भी
Hazrat
बेवा थी।
Habiba
और हज़रत मैमूना भी बेवा थी।
was also a widow, and so was Hazrat Mamuna.
और एक
And
वो जो आखिरी हैं हज़रत
the
सफिया,
last,
उनके मुतालिक
the
भी समझ
Safiya,
में आ रहा है, वो क्यों नहीं आ
about who was saying, why is she not being mentioned here?
रहा है? लिखा हुआ है? हाँ,
He was saying, where is her mention?
हज़रत सफिया ये भी बेवा ही थी। अच्छा अच्छा,
Huzur
मेरा
is,
ख्याल था कि बेवा नहीं है।
Huzur said she a widow
ये
as well.
सारी बेवाएं हैं
So all of them were
जिनसे
widows
हज़रत
whom the
सल्लल्लाहु
Holy
अलैहि
Prophet
वसल्लम ने शादी फरमाई है।
ﷺ married,
और मुख्तलिफ
and
एक हिकमत नहीं, मुख्तलिफ
there
हिकमतें
are
हैं
different reasons for
और
marrying
अक्सर
them,
कुर्बानी है,
not just one. And most of the time they
और
were
बड़ी भारी
sacrifices,
कुर्बानी
and it
है,
was a huge sacrifice,
क्योंकि जब
because
इतनी बीवियों की जिम्मेदारियां संभालना
to
और
take
फिर
care of this
उनके
responsibility of
आपस
so
के जो
many women
ताल्लुकात
and
हैं
the
उनको मुतवाज़न
relationships
रखना
of each
और
other, to
बार
keep
बार
them
उनके
balanced,
दरमियान
and
इख्तिलाफात
to
का एक तकलीफ सूरत भी या
and
कभी कई दफ़ा,
also seeing
बार बार नहीं तो कई दफ़ा
disagreement
तकलीफ
among
सूरत इख्तियार
themselves,
करके हाँ हज़रत
and
सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि
which
वसल्लम के दिल पर बोझ पड़ना, यहाँ तक कि
burdened
अल्लाह
Holy
का
Prophet
कोई इजाज़त
ﷺ's
देना,
heart, so much that the
चाहो
Holy
तो
Prophet
सबको तलाक दे दो
ﷺ was told by
और
Allah that
बड़ा
if you
छोड़ दो
want,
इनको।
you should divorce all
कोई
of them and
जबरदस्त सा
leave them
मरीज है, वो
alone.
कैसे सबको तलाक
So
देने की जरूरत
how
पड़ सकता है जबकि
how
उम्र
can
उसकी 60 बरस की हो गई हो
a person
और फिर इतनी मुशक्क़तों का आदी
who
हो,
is forced by such
जंगों में
desires,
तकलीफें, वक़्त
he
भूख और
should have
प्यास
left,
और
he should have
आज़माइशों
thought
से
of
गुजरा
leaving
हो,
them all. And such a
वो
person who had
तसव्वुर
gone
ही
through
और है
so
कि
many
खामोशी
trials
लोग बदमाश
and
आवारा
such
शराबी ये सोच भी नहीं सकते
desires, sorry,
हाँ हज़रत
these people who
सल्लल्लाहु
have
अलैहि
such
वसल्लम के मिजाज
lowly
था क्या
minds and lowly desires, they
और
cannot even
इन तीनों की
understand
आपके
what the Holy
मिजाज
Prophet
से तब्दीली था,
ﷺ's
अब किस
noble
तरह से हम इनकी
character
ज़िंदगी
was,
समझते हैं
and
इसकी
what
आदतें
gave
हैं
him
फितरत थी,
comfort.
ये
So
बेचारे
he's saying
यहाँ
that
बैठ के
these
अंदाज़ा लगाते
people
रहते
have
हैं
their own
कि
habits, and they
इस तरह का हुआ होगा और इस तरह वो
they
रसूल
make their
मोहम्मद
own
बिन जालिब की
ideas
उन्वान
up,
लगाइए
and
रसूल रसूल, ये तसव्वुर
kept
जंजीर रसूल का
they keep they make these allegations. Their
तो
own
हज़रत मसीह
character
मौऊद
forces
के
them
बाद हवाले
to
मैं
think
रखना
in that
चाहता हूँ।
way. Now Huzur is saying, I shall put
फरमाते हैं
before you some references of the Prophet
इस्लाम से
ﷺ. He
पहले
says that before
अक्सर कौमों में
Islam,
कसरत
in
से
most
अज़दिवाज की सैकड़ों और हज़ारों तक नौबत हुई थी।
women, in most people there was
इस्लाम से पहले
polygamy of hundreds
सैकड़ों
of
और
women.
हज़ारों तक भी
In
नौबत
fact,
पहुंची थी।
thousands
इस्लाम
of
ने
women as well.
ताद्दुद अज़दिवाज को कम किया है,
Islam
कहा
has
जाता है,
limited it and reduced the
बल्कि
number.
कुरान में ही एक
And in
मज़ीद
fact,
ख़ास
this
है
is a special
कि उसने अज़दिवाज की बेहदी
thing
और
of
बेक़ैदी का
special character of the Holy Quran,
और ये
that
बहुत ही
it
अहम
has
नुक्ता है जो
limited
हज़रत मसीह मौऊद ने बनाया है।
the number,
इससे
and it's
पहले
a very
मैं कई दफ़ा ये
important
बात
point
पेश कर चुका हूँ कि कम किया
which
है,
the
मगर
Prophet
कभी ये ख्याल
ﷺ
नहीं गुज़रा था
has
कि इलाही
expressed,
कुतुब में एक कुरान
that
ही है
it's only,
जिसने कम
he
किया
says, it's only the Holy Quran which has
और किसी
reduced the
किताब ने
number,
कम नहीं किया
and apart there is no other book which
और पाबंदी
has not
लगा दी।
reduced the number, and Allah has put place a
फरमाया
restriction, and it says
उससे अज़दिवाज की बेहदी और बेक़ैदी को रद्द
he
कर दिया है
they rejected
और
the
क्या वो इसराइली
the
कौम के
limited
मुक़द्दस नबी। अब मैं
the
यहाँ आपके बयान पे
limits.
आपके सामने रखना चाहता हूँ एक
Sorry,
बात
Huzur is saying
अहम,
that I wish to bring
जो
something
शख्स इस
before
बात को
you,
सोच सकता है कि हज़रत
that
मसीह ने
someone may think that
तो एक ही शादी की बात की है
Messiah has said,
और
that Jesus has said they should
आपके
only
तादाद
marry
में
one,
कहीं दो शादियों का जिक्र
and
नहीं मिलता।
no one mentions anything about him
ये
marrying
दुरुस्त है,
twice. And this is true
हज़रत मसीह के इरशादात
that
में दो शादियों का जिक्र नहीं है,
Jesus
लेकिन
Jesus' account
मज़ीद
does not
पर
speak of
तहदीद करना
two women
बिल्कुल
of,
गलत है,
but this is completely
क्योंकि
wrong
जिससे वो
of
इस्तिंबात करते हैं
this
वो
completely wrong
आयत
deduction, because
खुद
what they
हज़रत मसीह
deduce
की
that
इस
from
आयत से टकराती है
is clashes with this
जिसमें आप
verse of
फरमाते हैं
Messiah,
कि
in
मैं
which the of Jesus, in which he
किताब
says
को यानी
that
तौरात को
I have not come to
उसका एक
change
तोशा भी
and even
मंसूख करने के लिए
an
नहीं आया,
iota of the faith.
बस दोनों आयतों में
So
से एक को संभालेंगे
out of both
और
of
दूसरी को
these rough
निकालना पड़ेगा।
verses, you'll have to keep
और
one
ये आयत
safe
जो
and
मैं
take the
बयान कर
other
रहा
one
हूँ ये
out.
इतनी
And this
मुसल्लमा
verse
और
that
पक्की है,
I'm presenting to you is
इसके
so
ऊपर
firm
शुरू से लेकर आज
that
तक
from the
ईसाई
beginning
मुसन्निफ़ीन
to
लिखते हैं और
today,
इसको
people
दर्ज
write
करते
about
हैं,
it. The Christian
पेश भी करते
writers
हैं,
write
इसकी
about it, and they
तारीदें भी
present
करते
it,
हैं,
and they
ये रद्द
also
नहीं था।
discuss it, but they don't reject it. What the discussions that they do is that it didn't mean that he could not change it. It meant that he completed it. That is, Jesus made it more beautiful. This is the teaching of the Bible. Even if you do accept this meaning, then from this point of view, from this verse, you cannot be given the cause. It doesn't give you cause to reject or deny any verse of the Holy Quran. So, sorry, of the Bible. So people accept it. And one of the deductions is that Jesus never said that he should change the teachings of the Bible. If you want to complete something, then you can add things to it, and the words use perfection, but no one's allowed to remove, to make it any less. So when Jesus has not mentioned that someone should have less than one wife, then we cannot, we haven't got the right to take it as anything. And from this point of view, this verse, he has never rejected or limited or denied any teaching of the Bible. If he has done anything, then he has gone towards perfection. For example, Jesus, the teaching of, he did not deny the teaching of revenge. He picked on the part which spoke about forgiveness, and then he brought forward to the world, and as if he belonged to that teaching alone. But that was the part in which there was no perfection, had not yet happened. So in the Jews, one type of teaching really nourished, and it fulfilled, it's matured, and which was that of revenge. And they forgot about the forgiveness aspect. On this, Jesus worked hard and nourished it, and also make that flourish. And then Islam came, and Islam kept both aspects. And so perfection could then mean, this is what perfection could mean, and you could not say that Jesus denied the previous teachings altogether and brought his own new teachings. From Islam says that this is the greatness of the special greatness of the Holy Quran. Huzur is saying that I've explained this so that people don't say that the Bible is also spoken of marriages to one in the Gospel, because the Bible could not have done that unless all the previous prophets and all the previous teachings could not be rejected first. And then the Prophet ﷺ says that, and that those blessed prophets who had hundreds of wives, and some even had 700 wives, were they doing something? Were they doing something wrong? And their children, some of whom were prophets, should they be regarded as being illegitimate? Because they say that if there is more than one wife, which is Islam has permitted, then this was just a debauchery, and they say that because they don't, in their law they don't permit more than one wife, but they say that they don't care about having girlfriends, and the law will not catch anyone on that, for that crime. And the Prophet ﷺ says in Al-Hakam, volume 7, number 8, on the 28th of February 1903, page 15, and the rest of the references, if I haven't given them, then when they are, so I didn't hear what Huzur said. It is not said to have 4 wives. It says that is a permission So
हालात
there was
बयान
a
किए और
there
फिर
was a limit
इजाजत दी
set,
4
and
तक।
then permission was given
इससे ये
up
तो
to
लाजिम नहीं
4, and
आता कि
from this
4 ही को
doesn't
गले का
mean that
ढोल
you
बना दे।
must have 4 and hang
कुरान
them
का
around your
मकसद तो ये
necks.
है
The
कि
Holy
चूंकि
Quran is
इंसानी
saying
ज़रूरियात
that
मुख्तलिफ
because
होती हैं,
man's needs
इस
are
वास्ते
different,
1 से
therefore
लेकर 4 तक
from 1
इजाज़त
to
दे दी
4
है।
wives can be had.
और यहाँ मैं ये बयान
Here,
करना
Huzur
ज़रूरी
is saying that
समझता
I
हूँ
wish to make it clear
कि तर्ज़
that
बयान से लोग
the
बाज़
the
दफ़ा ये
way it is
इस्तिंबात
mentioned,
करते हैं,
some
बाज़
people
लोग
sometimes
और ख़ास तौर पर
derive the
बाज़ औरतें
conclusion,
ये
and
इस्तेमाल
especially
करती हैं
some women
कि
derive
जब
this
दामाद की
conclusion
कोई
that
शर्त है,
the
जब वो
condition
शर्त
of
मौजूद ना हो
orphans, when
तो
that condition
इजाज़त
does
भी
not remain,
कलअदम हो गई।
then the permission is also
हालांकि
gone.
लोग इस
Whereas
आयत को, इस तर्ज़ बयान को ना
this
समझने की नतीजे में
those
ये
who
बात पैदा हुई है।
this has happened because of not
एक
understanding the
ज़रूरत के
style of
वक्त
this verse.
एक इजाज़त की
At the
तरफ
time
तवज्जो
of
दिलाना
need, Allah reminds us of a
जो पहले से
permission
राइज
which was already in
और वो इजाज़त
existence,
थी
and
एक से
that
ज़्यादा शादी
permission
करने
was to marry more than one.
तो कुरान की तर्ज़ बयान
So
ये है
the
कि
Holy
अगर तुम
Quran style is
इंसाफ़ी
that
से खौफ रखते
if
हो
you are afraid
कि दामाद से नाइंसाफ़ी करोगे
of
तो फिर
injustice with the orphans,
पहले ही से
then
इजाज़त मौजूद है,
the permission exists.
अब नहीं दी जा रही।
It's not been given now. It's a
तो
new,
ये
not
फ़र्क
a
है
new
जिसको दर्ज़
permission. So
बताया
that is
गया
the
है।
difference that should be kept in
अगर
view.
अब इजाज़त दी गई
If there was a permission
तो
given
इससे
now,
पहले
then
मुसलमान सोसाइटी में सिर्फ एक बीवी होनी चाहिए
there should have been only one wife in the
तो
Muslim
ख़त्म हो
society
जाता।
before that, which is completely wrong.
तो एक
So
मुसलमा
Muslims
तस्लीम
used to
शुदा
marry more
रिवाज
than
की
one. So
बात
this
करते
was
हुए
a
कुरान करीम
custom
फरमाता है
which was already in
कि इसके
existence. The
लिए
Holy
तुम्हारे
Quran
पास हल
says that
मौजूद है
there is a
कि
solution to this
इससे
problem,
तुम और
that
औरतों से शादी करो,
you can marry
मगर
more than
अब हम
one,
पाबंदी
but
लगाते हैं।
now we
तो इजाज़त नहीं
place
है, दरअसल
limits.
इजाज़त
That
से
is not a
इंसाफ की
permission.
पाबंदी मखसूस है।
It
पाबंदी ये लगाते हैं कि आज के
the
बाद
restriction
दो,
the restriction
तीन,
is that from
4 से
after
आगे नहीं
now
बढ़ना,
you cannot go
ये आखिरी
ahead
हद
of
है
4.
जिसमें
So it's
इजाज़त
the
दी
final
जाती है।
limit of how far you can go.
ऐसे लोग जो ये एक
And
एतराज़
such
को अपनी
people
तरफ से
who
पेश करते हैं और फिर
present
खुद इस्लाम
such
का दावा भी
allegations from
करते हैं,
themselves, and then they
मैं नहीं जानता कि
claim
उनका
this
ईमान
towards
कैसे
the
कायम रह सकता है।
towards Islam. I don't know how their faith can remain faith. This Prophet Islam said.
ये किसी आगे से बात वाज़ेह हो
Huzur
जाए,
is saying that it will become
बाज़
clear
लोगों के मौक़िफ़ के
that
मुताबिक जो मुसलमान कहलाते हुए भी
some
इस आयत
people's
से गलत
ideas
तर्जुमा
who
करते
are
हैं,
called
नबी ने
becomes some
फरमाया
Muslims,
है,
and they translate this
ऐसे
in the
लोग
wrong
जो एक
way.
एतराज़ को अपनी
And those
तरफ से पेश
people
करते हैं और
who
फिर वो खुद
present an
इस्लाम का
allegation
दावा भी
from
करते हैं,
themselves, and then they also
मैं नहीं
claim
जानता
that they
कि
are
उनका
Islam,
ईमान कैसे
they're
कायम रह
Muslims.
जाता
I
है।
don't know how their
वो तो
faith can
इस्लाम के
remain.
मुतबिब हैं,
They are
ये नहीं
actually
देखते कि एक
alleging against
मुक़न्निन
Islam,
को
and they don't
कानून बनाने
see
के वक्त
that when a
किन किन
person is
बातों का
making a
लिहाज
law,
करता है।
he
फिर
has
आगे
to
किसी शख्स की
keep
एक बीवी है
everything in
तो कोई
view.
जुज़ाम हो गया हो,
So, for example,
मतलब
if
ये है कि
someone
जो
has one
मुसलमान
wife
होते
and
हुए एक से
something
ज़्यादा
happens to her,
शादियों पर एतराज़ करते
those
हैं,
people who allege
वो
against the
लाइल्म
Holy
जहालत
Quran,
में ऐसी बात करते हैं
they
और नहीं
about who
जानते
are
कि कानून
Muslims,
के क्या तकाज़े होते हैं।
who
और कुरान
make
करीम
allegations
ने
against this
बड़ी हिकमत के
the
साथ
teaching
उन
of
तकाज़ों को
Islam.
पूरा
They don't
फरमाया।
understand that Allah
बस
is
यहाँ
what the wisdom behind
महज
these
ये
commands is,
यूतुम की
that
शर्त को आपने देखनी चाहिए।
all eventualities have to be catered
फरमाते
for.
हैं
And here, then the Prophet
कि
ﷺ
एक
says about
मुक़न्निन को
orphans
कानून बनाने
that
के वक्त किन किन बातों का
they
लिहाज
don't
होता है।
understand that a
भला अगर किसी
person
शख्स की
who
एक
is
बीवी
taking
है,
care of
उसे जुज़ाम हो गया
the
है
law,
या
what
हादसे में
he has to
मुब्तला
look
है
after
या
everything.
अंधी
And
हो
if there's
गई
a
है,
person
ये इस काबिल भी नहीं कि औलाद
is
उसको हासिल हो सके, वगैरह
who
वगैरह
has one
अवारिज़ में
wife and
मुब्तला हो
something
जाए,
happens to
इस
her
हालत
and
में अब उस
she
ख़ावंद को क्या
cannot
करना
bear
चाहिए?
children or something, and in that
क्या
case, what
ऐसी
should the
बीवी पर
father,
कनात करे?
what should the husband do?
ऐसी
Should he just
मुश्किलात के वक्त क्या
suffice with
तदबीर
that?
पेश करते हैं?
What
या
is the
भला अगर
solution
वो
that they
किसी
can
किस्म की बदमाशी
present,
वगैरह में
or should
मुब्तला हो
he
गई,
then
तो क्या अब उस ख़ावंद की गैरत तकाज़ा करेगी
if she does
उसको
something
अपनी
wrong,
बीवी, अपनी पुरिश्मत
then
बीवी का
will
खिताब दे रखे? खुदा जाने
will
ये
he be
इस्लाम पर
okay
एतराज़ करते
to
वक्त अंधी क्यों हो जाते हैं? ये
um,
बात हमारी समझ में नहीं
uh,
आती।
will
तो
he
मजबूर
then
क्या है कि इंसानी
still
ज़रूरियात
keep her
को
as his
पूरा नहीं
pure
करता।
wife? What
अब
kind of
उन सूरह आल
religion is
में
it that
शरीयत
can't
क्या तदबीर
take
पेश
care of
आती
all
है?
eventualities?
कुरान
So
शरीफ की अज़मत
the Holy
साबित करती
Quran's
है
greatness
कि
is
इंसान
proved
की कोई
from
ऐसी
this,
ज़रूरत
that
नहीं
there is no
जिसका
need
पहले
of
से ही
man
उसमें
which
कानून
has
बना
not
दिया हो।
been, for
अब तो
which
हिंदुस्तान में भी
a
इस
law has
मुश्किलात की
not
वजह से
been done
कसरत से
already.
अज़दवाज
And
और
now
तलाक शुरू
in
होता जाता है।
in England as
अभी एक
well,
लॉ
people
की बाबत पूछा
are
गया था, देखा था कि उसने दूसरी बीवी कर ली,
divorce. Now
आखिर उसे
it's said
इत्तला भी
about a
हुई,
lord
नो
who
वो
married
अमेरिका में
a
जा रहा है।
second
गौर
wife,
से
and
देखो कि
even though
इंसान के
he was
वास्ते
punished, he then
ऐसी
left
ज़रूरतें
and
पेश
went to
आती हैं या
America.
नहीं कि
If,
एक से ज़्यादा
this is
बीवियां
a
कर ले,
need
एक
in
ऐसी
people's lives, and that they need to marry more than one wife, and
अतम अकमल
And
किताब
such
भेजी, कुरान
needs
शरीफ
are
की,
what
कुरान शरीफ
the
जैसी
fulfillment of such
अतम
needs
अकमल किताब
is
भेजी गई है।
what the Holy Quran, which is a
अब ये
perfect
जो
book,
हिस्सा है इसके
presents.
मुतालिक
This
एक
part is already
मुगालता
saying
दूर होना ज़रूरी
that
है।
one
ये कहा जा
misunderstanding should be
सकता है
removed. It
कि
could be
जो
said
मिसालें
that
हज़रत मसीह
the
अलैहिस्सलाम ने पेश
examples
फरमाई हैं,
the Prophet ﷺ has
उनमें एक
presented,
बीवी तक का जवाब तो समझ आ गया,
in those we can
मगर दो
understand
बीवियों का जवाब कहाँ
the
से निकल आया,
that
और तीन का और चार का।
how could it
इसलिए
refer to, how
एक
could we
बात
understand
दूसरी की
and
फिर इजाज़त देकर मामले
justify
को वहाँ ख़त्म कर
3 or
दिया जाता
4
है।
wives, which should
अमर
just have
वाक़या
been
ये
2
है कि हज़रत
wives?
मसीह मौऊद
The fact of the
अलैहिस्सलाम
matter
ने
is that the Prophet Messiah
यहाँ जो
Islam
इस्तिस्नाई सूरत हाल पेश
presented
फरमाई है,
an exceptional
उनका तकाज़ा
part here,
बाज़ दफ़ा
exceptional
एक,
matter
बाज़
here,
दफ़ा दो तक
and
भी जा सकता
sometimes
है।
this can extend
मगर
up to 1 or
कुरान करीम
2
ने इस सूरत
wives
को
as well. But the
आयत
Holy
को जिस
Quran,
महल में
in
रखा है, वो
the
वाज़े तौर
way
पर एक
it presents
टाइम के
this
बाद के
verse
असरात
is
से मुतासर
the
सोसाइटी को
effects,
मंजर करता
a society that is affected by
है। एक
in
ऐसा
the
मंजर पेश
aftermath
आया
of war. The
जिससे पहले
scenario that is
कोई ऐसी जंग
painted
गुजरी
before us is
ऐसे
that there's a
हालात
war
पैदा हुए
may have
कि
occurred, or
मर्दों की
such
तादाद कम
situation
रह गई और
may
औरतों
have
ज़्यादा हो
occurred where the men
गई
were
और
less and women were more,
बेसामा पैदा हो गई,
and
बेवाएं भी पैदा हो गई।
there were many widows and
ऐसी
orphan
सूरत में
ladies, and in
क्या
that
एक ही
sense, in that
शादी
case,
की इजाज़त काफ़ी हो सकती थी,
would it be
जबकि
would
एक
have been
से ज़्यादा
sensible to have just one wife,
एक मज़ीद शादी की
where
इजाज़त काफ़ी हो सकती थी?
or would it have been
बल्कि अमर
advisable
वाक़या
to
ये
have
है
one
कि
extra
एक से
wife,
ज़्यादा शादी
whereas
करना
to
हर
have
शख्स की
more than one wife is
इक़्तिसादी इस्तिताअत ही में नहीं होता।
is not the
महज
economic
इजाज़त की
possibility
बहस
for
नहीं हो सकती।
a lot of people. It's not just merely
इस्तिताअत का जो मज़मून है वो आखिर पर बयान हो गया
capacity,
है। अगर
the
तुम में इस्तिताअत
capacity.
नहीं, उसकी
The
वजह से
capacity has
नाइंसाफ़ी
already
करने पर
been
मजबूर
mentioned
हो, या
that
वैसे तुम्हारा मिजाज ऐसा है कि
if you are
नाइंसाफ़ी करो
such
तो
that you
फिर तुमको
may
इजाज़त है।
be may be
इस आयत
unjust,
ने हर
unjust, then you should
इंसानी
only
पहलू
keep
को
one wife.
पेश
So
रखा गया
every possibility
और हज़रत
has
मसीह
been kept in view in
अलैहिस्सलाम
this verse, and the Prophet Islam
मुसलमान मुतज़िन का जो जवाब दे रहे हैं, जो कहते
it
हैं
is
कि इसकी
responding
कोई
to
ज़रूरत
those
ही नहीं,
people
उन पर
who are
वाइद कर रहे
making
हैं कि
allegations that
इनफरादी
it is
तौर पर
not
किसी औरत
necessary
मर्द
to
की ज़रूरत यहाँ पे
marry
होती है।
another wife at all,
जहाँ पर
and he's
कौमी
saying to
ज़रूरत का
them that
ताल्लुक है, इस आयत
this
का वाज़ेह और अव्वल
individual needs
ताल्लुक
are
कौमी
in
ज़रूरत
front
से
of you, you know them, but
तो
there are other
कौमी
needs as
ज़रूरत
well.
के
There are
नतीजे में बसा औक़ात
some
एक
country
सोसाइटी
needs
में
of a nation,
औरतों की
and
तादाद
sometimes
इतनी भी बढ़ जाती है
in a
कि
society the women
एक और
become
चार
so
की निस्बत भी
many
हो जाती
that
है
it could be a ratio of 1 to
और एक
4
और
with the
दो और
men,
तीन की निस्बत आम
and
देखी जाती
1 to 2 and
है। मेरे
1 to
अज़ीज़
3
सानी में
has often been seen
यूरोप में भी
in
जो
World War II. In Europe,
जिस कसरत से
the
मर्द कत्ल हुए हैं
there so many
और
men
मारे
were
गए हैं जंग
killed
में,
in the war,
इसने तवाज़ुन इतना बिगाड़ दिया था
and it ruined the
कि कसरत से
balance so
औरतें
much
सोसाइटी
that
में
there were
बढ़ती
many
थीं,
women
जिनका
in the society
कोई वाली वारिस नहीं
who
था,
had no one
कोई पुश्तैन हाल नहीं था।
to answer for to
बस उस
ask
सूरत
of
में
them. And in
यतामा
that
की
regard, in that
देखभाल
sense, the
मजमून एक
looking
और
after
मानी भी
of
रखता है।
orphans has another
अगर
meaning as
तुम
well.
यतामा के
If
मुतालिक ये
you
महसूस करो
feel
कि
about
उनका
orphans
कोई वाली वारिस
that
नहीं,
they have no one to
कोई
look
उनका
after them
देखभाल करने वाला
and no
नहीं,
one to be their
उनके
guardian,
हकूक़ अदा नहीं कर
and
रहा,
no one can fulfill
वो
their
गलियों
rights,
में
then they shouldn't
आवारा
be
बनकर
walking
सोसाइटी
around
को
in
भी
the
नुकसान
streets,
पहुंचाएंगे, अपना मुस्तकबिल तबाह
and
करेंगे।
they would be ruining
ऐसी
society
सूरत में
and ruining their
ये
own
ज़रूरी
futures.
हल
And
है
in
कि एक से
this,
ज़्यादा शादी की जाए
in that case, it is
और
important
जो
to marry more
ताबा
than
है
once,
औरतों का
and
तुम्हारे लिए,
the taba of the
जो
women
तुम्हें रास आएँ, जो
who
तुम्हें खुश
you
आएँ, उन औरतों से
who you
शादी करो
prefer, you should marry
ताकि
them
मुआशरे
so
की
that
मुश्किल हल हो।
this problem of the society
ये
is resolved.
तफसील
This
उस वक्त हो
detail
सकता है लोगों की नज़र के सामने ना
may
होती,
not have been in the
क्योंकि उस
people's
वक्त की
point of view
मकामी
at the
ज़रूरत जो
time,
थी
because
उसके
the
हवाले से
local
तमाम
need
मुफस्सिरीन
of the time,
और
all the
मुहद्दिसीन खास तौर से दिखाई
Orientalists
देते हैं।
speak about, discuss
उस वक्त
those
ऐसी बड़ी
situation at
ज़रूरत
the time. At
दिखाई
that
नहीं दी
time, it didn't appear to
जिसको ये
have had
आयत अपने
such a
पेश
strong
नज़र रखते
need,
हुए,
which this
लेकिन चूँकि
verse
कुरान
had in
करीम
mind. But
एक
because the
आलमी
Holy
किताब है,
Quran is an
चूँकि
international
कुरान करीम का
book,
इतलाक़ हर
and
ज़माने पर
because
होता
it
है,
applies to every
इसलिए
era,
तमाम ज़माने
therefore
की आलमी ज़रूरतों को पेश नज़र रखता
it
है।
keeps in mind all
ये
the needs
आयत
of all times.
इससे
So
बहुत
this
ज़्यादा वसी
verse
है,
is much
जितना
more
उस वक्त
vast
के
than
हालात
this,
के
than the
पर नज़र
people at the
रखने से
time.
दिखाई देती है।
Then it appears from looking
वो वक्ती
at the
हालात नहीं
situation of
और
the
उनके
time,
हवाले से
that
बात वो कहती
situation
है
was temporary, but
जो
that matter
वसी
has been
असर है और
discussed,
बहुत
which has
फैलने
a,
वाली है और
a
तमाम दुनिया की
great
कौमी ज़रूरतों पर निगाह रखने वाली
effect, which has a vast effect,
है। बस जंग
and
अज़ीम
it takes
अव्वल
care
और
of the
जंग
needs
अज़ीम
of
सानी
the
में
whole world. So in World War I and World War II, the increase in the number of women, and because there was this command was not there that they can marry, or this instruction, permission was not there that they can marry more than one, and this ruined the society, resulted in a huge destruction of the society. Huzur is saying that when these matters are asked of me in my question and answer sessions, and often they are raised, in fact it's very rare that they are not raised, because they have the Muslim, this is the biggest weapon the non-Muslims have against women, against Islam, that is, and they use women to do this. And when I respond in this way, then by the grace of God, because the justice is they have fair-mindedness, whether there are Huzur saying that the people who are against Islam, whether generally their researchers and their ordinary people have a very great standard of fair-mindedness, because secularism created some problem, but it also gave this advantage that people try to be above prejudices of various forms, and they stay within justice, the realms of justice, and say things which are logical. He was saying that if you read, when I am when I discuss these things, people who make these allegations, their faces, they nod while I'm giving them their answer, and their faces transform while I'm speaking to them. But the same question is raised repeatedly, and it's not because they have a prejudice. They say that if a man can be permitted to have 4 wives, then for example, then it could happen that in some places there should be more men rather than women, and these possibilities also exist. So why can't women have more than one husband? And I say that once you make a law, then you cannot confine anyone to any particular place, and if both work at the same time, then can you imagine what the society will look like? I shall present that to you. If a person marries 4 wives and his wives are also the same, and they say that okay, why not? So each one of them marries three more wives, sorry, 3 more husbands, and every man with whom this woman has married, she will say that why should I not marry more? So then he then also marries 3 more, and then those 3 should also marry 3 others. So imagine what will be left of a family, how huge this family would be. Zuri is saying that I told them there's another problem as well, which is that if someone has more than one wife, then about every child, we say that we can say that he's such and such husband's such and such father's child, and he will be responsible for them in law. But if there are 3 or 4 husbands, then whose will the child be, and who will take the responsibility, and will they all give their divorce altogether? And if one gives a divorce, then and what problems will arise of inheritance when these complications are shown to them? Then they say no, it can't. It is correct to leave it like this. So it is not possible. There's no possibility. It's impossible to have more than one husband of one wife. Huzur saying I should present another quotation from the Prophet Islam's blessed words in front of you. In Arabs, people used to do nikah or marry more than hundreds of wives, and then they didn't think it was necessary to be just among them, that they should be treated equally. Women were in a terrible problem, just as it's mentioned in John Davenport and many other English people, that is the Muslims, when they became Muslims, Islam freed women of many problems, and this is Islam's favor which these people forget. The Prophet ﷺ says the Holy Quran has removed the possibility of hundreds of marriages and limited it to 4. So he has not, the Quran has not increased 1 to 4, it has decreased the hundreds to 4. And then Allah also says in khiftum Allah ta'dilu, that if you are afraid that you will not be able to be just, then you should only have one wife. So if anyone looks at the Holy Quran, then they would see that at the time of the revelation of the Holy Quran, how many people, wide polygamy was. And then they would be, if anyone looks at that, they would understand the favor of the Holy Quran. And sometimes when people have, because of the woman being permanently ill, or that if she cannot, where it's impossible to have any relationship with her, like it happens in some diseases, and sometimes such illnesses remain for 10 years, and also that sometimes there are some women whose nikahs have been done late, at the late age. Then among them the elderly age comes too fast. They become old very quickly, and in all of these cases a second wife is needed. Or because of a woman becoming pregnant very quickly, she loses her powers, whereas a man is still young and and he needs another wife, and in that case naturally another wife is needed. And this is why Allah has permitted more than one wife. The Quran has said that there must be justice. So the Prophet Islam's general point of view, that comes from this, that we can derive from this, is that other needs are individual, and on them this will apply, and where there was a need, there it should finish, the matter should end. But if someone wishes to go forward, then he must keep this he must have this condition in his mind, that he must maintain justice at all costs, and would not be allowed to marry more than 4. And these needs the Prophet ﷺ has not expressed in an individual manner. He has said, because everyone is in has different reasons, and they have different needs, and every man is not the same. Just as in science there are balances, some chemicals, elements are able to have a relationship with other people, with others, some through 1 electron, some with 2, some with 3. In the same way, in men also there are different types of and Allah has given them less or more capacities. And because this discussion requires a lot of discussion, and many things have to be disclosed, which the Prophet ﷺ is stopping himself from discussing. So he just indicates towards it and leaves it. So you cannot, he's saying that the Prophet ﷺ is saying that you know if there's a need for more, but you should remember that you must be just, and if you can, then you can reach a limit of 4, otherwise you'll have to stay except just one wife. Then the Prophet ﷺ says the need has made it, if a person wife cannot have children, and some people regard the second wife as being adultery, then what about the previous prophets? Sulaiman Islam had, they said, they had hundreds of wives, and so did David. So if the intention is right, then it's okay. But if they think then if they think that more than one wife is adultery, then their God was also born from the same blood. The Prophet ﷺ has said, look at how nicely the Prophet ﷺ has explained this, what depth he has explained it, that if the priests are correct, then their God was also born out of David. So then this is a very good thing. The priests go to the lowly things. In the Gospel say that if anyone has an iota of faith, they can ask a mountain to go to another place, and the mountain will go. And the priest should prove their faith by doing this. And then the Prophet ﷺ said that this is such injustice, that those people whose blessed prophets had hundreds of wives at the same time, or the two, they think that it's really very wrong to have more than one wife, and in fact they call it adultery. And then the Prophet ﷺ says that they shut their eyes to the style of their prophets, and they're gnawing their teeth at the Muslims. Huzur is saying that this is a verse. This is some words in Urdu which describe that they don't stop. They keep getting angry at the Muslims, and it is embarrassing that those people who accept that Jesus was born out of his mother is the same. It is the same style which is seen in David, who had hundreds of wives. Huzur is saying that they don't see that it insults Mary, and in spite of all this disrespect, they still claim that they have they respect Mary and her son. You should realize that the Prophet ﷺ says that you should realize that Bible, according to the Bible, more than one wife, to keep more than one wife was done extensively. Even the paternal grandfather of Jesus as well had more than one wife. If you think only one one wife is only correct, then do you think that David wasn't a pure man? And such people who had a string of revelation on their hearts, and is this not a permanent sin that they were involved in which they carried on until the end of life and their life? And such a God who has such a sense of honor that he destroyed people who did not listen to him, is this worthy of Allah's honor, that he should permit Abraham and Isaac and David and Solomon, because of their having lots of wives, to regard them as being disobedient and in their whole lives? Why should Allah not have punished them? Why should Allah have loved those people? Allah did not find anyone else to descend His revelation upon, And why would he have such people? Why should Allah make such people his beloved? And Rasul is saying that he he proved to the whole world that in order to become Allah's beloved, this is it's not the past to that people should live in the world like which is not a complete man. The only the one that person is the most firm in faith who takes on the responsibility of women and children. So someone has um, who has had a relationship with wives and children, and he still has a relationship with God, which is above all other relationships. Then Nazir is saying this is in Aina Kamalat Islam. The rest is saying that we shall discuss tomorrow, inshallah. Nazir is saying that we started a bit late, but we didn't go, we couldn't take it too far. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम। ये उठा के